Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm glad you could be here with me today. I want to talk to you about why I think you should read A Song of Ice and Fire by George R. R. Martin. Now, if you're not familiar with the name A Song of Ice and Fire, you are most likely familiar with all the hype surrounding A Game of Thrones. That's the TV series that was on HBO, and it gets its name from the first book in the Song of Ice and Fire series. And the TV series covers, or at least attempts to cover, the book series. Now I'm going to take it from a couple of different angles. I'm going to talk about why you should read the book series if you have never read them or never got into the TV show at all. And on the flip side, if you have watched the TV show but have not picked up the books, I'm going to be speaking to you as well. And then I'll have a few parting words at the end, so make sure you do stay to the end, because some of what I have to say there is really important. So I hope you stick around. So let's get right to it. If you are in the camp that has never watched A Game of Thrones and you have never read the Song of Ice and Fire series, you are seriously missing out. I don't know how you escaped the hype of the TV show, but if you did, hey, more power to you. That's cool. It wasn't everybody's cup of tea. But if you are a diehard fantasy fiction lover, then you should definitely pick up A Song of Ice and Fire series. And here's why. First of all, the characters. This series is designed around the characters. When you're reading the books, each book is taken from the perspective of a different character. So one chapter will focus on Tyrion Lannister, one chapter will focus on Ned Stark. It's very much set up in vignettes and perspectives of the characters. And it is a completely immersive way to get to know your characters. As I've said before in previous videos, I love really good character development. I love knowing how the characters that I'm interacting with feel and think, and what they fear and what they're excited about. You really get to know the characters well in this series. So well, in fact, that most of the books are well over 600 pages long. Because he is just that detailed in immersing you in the characters. And in the world too. Let's not forget the world. The Westeros and the lands beyond Westeros are so expansive that you just feel like you're completely in this whole other universe, because you are. It's very much set up to just place you in this massive world where you could literally go anywhere and experience completely new and interesting things. And there's not only Westeros, but there's old Valyria, where the dragons used to roam freely, and the Targaryens lived and set up their dynasty. And there is just so much to explore in the world of Westeros, and he does such a good job of explaining that world to you, but still leaving you with that sense of mystery. And that is something that, if you ever get a chance to watch the TV show, you lose quite a bit of that mystery. Not that it's not good, but it just doesn't immerse you into the world the way the books do. It's that old adage, the books are always better. And in this case, they most definitely are. If you like history, oh man, there is history aplenty in this series. The amount of historical research that George R. R. Martin went into to craft his world and to create it is very, very evident. This series focuses primarily on the War of the Roses in England, and it takes the story out of that and builds a fantasy world around it, and it's just really, really well done. But you have all the classic tropes from the War of the Roses. You have the battle for the two main thrones. You have all the cunning and manipulation and conniving of the characters. You've got characters that are just completely detestable. You've got characters that are always manipulating other characters to get what they want. And it's just amazing to see that all fleshed out on screen. And there's elements of the rise of the Roman Empire in this series, and just so much that influenced A Song of Ice and Fire from our own world history. William the Conqueror is seen pretty clearly in some of the aspects of the greater, larger story of A Song of Ice and Fire and some of the back history. There's a character called Aegon the Conqueror that bears a strong resemblance to William the Conqueror. George R. R. Martin definitely did his historical research for this story. So if you like history and you like a world that is created around its own mythological history, much like Lord of the Rings even, then you will really like A Song of Ice and Fire. And I want to go back a little bit real quick to the characters. These characters are anything but dry. There may be a few characters in there that are a little bit drier than others, but none of the characters are necessarily dry. Especially one. My favorite, Tyrion Lannister. I found myself laughing out loud at some of the antics that he did in the book. He's a dwarf, meaning he's a tiny person, and he's always crassly called an imp, and just everybody belittles him and puts him down, and he has an outlook on life that's just like, screw that, I am who I am, and I love that about him. But he comes off so hilarious. So I think you'll just love Tyrion. He is by far probably my favorite character in the entire story. Besides the characters, you really get a window into mythology as well. So if you like mythology, you need to pick up the book series and read it, and even watch the TV show as well. But there's something really unique about the way he's crafted the mythology in the books. He's taken a lot from fairy tales, like the origins of fairy tales. I'm not talking about the fairy tales that we read as kids. I'm talking about the history behind and the mythology from the old world around mythological creatures like the Fae. You've got creatures that are clearly taken from the Pixies, and you got these strange trees that play into some of the old religions in the story. You've got these mysterious people called the Others. In the show, they're depicted a little bit differently, and they're much at the forefront, the White Walkers. But in the story, they're just called the Others, and they're very much in the background still. You know they're there. You know they're watching over everything, but you don't see them as much as you do in the TV show. So I would highly recommend that you pick up this book for the mythology as well, because there's so much mystery around it, and it's based on a lot of research into different mythological tales. The Others are based on the she warriors of the Fae. They're a higher class race of the fair people, and he was strongly influenced by those when he was writing the Others into the story. So that is just one other reason that you should be reading these books. And then once you get around to it, you can pick up the TV show if you like. Also, there are dragons. There are dragons. I love dragons. You love dragons. If you like fantasy, who doesn't love dragons? Well, maybe you don't love dragons. I don't know. But I love dragons. And there is magic. It's not as in-your-face magic as other fantasy books have. It's much more subtle, but the magic is definitely there. And so this is just a completely well-crafted and unique fantasy world that I have a hard time seeing anybody be able to top. Even some of my favorite authors, like, Brandon Sanderson, even though he's got great magic systems and great stories, I don't know if I feel like it can top the Song of Ice and Fire. And there's some aspects in which I think he even exceeds Tolkien, which I know is weird to say, but it's true. So many reasons why you should pick this book series up, and then pick up the show if you like to too. Now that's if you've not done either of those. If you have watched the series and you're like, okay, I'm satisfied, I've had a good run, I don't need to read the books. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. I think. Anyway. The story in the show starts out pretty faithful at the very beginning. The first season is pretty close to the books. But as it progresses, it completely diverges in so many respects from the books. There are characters that die in the show that are still alive in the books. There are characters that are alive in the show that died in the books. There are completely new characters or merged characters that were in the show that were separate people or completely didn't exist in the books. So you're essentially getting a completely different story. And if you like to read and you like to read fantasy, there's no reason you should not pick this up. You get to know your characters so much more. If you get invested in characters in the TV show, you are going to get even more invested in those characters in the book. There were cliffhangers at the end of some of the books where you were like, no, that person didn't just die, did they? And then you're constantly left waiting to see what happens. Definitely pick up these books. Going back to Tyrion Lannister, if you thought he was funny in the show, that's just the tip of the iceberg. He is uproariously funny in the books. He is completely well fleshed out, and you really get to know what drives him, what kind of pain he's had in his life, what he's had to go through to get to the status that he's gotten to. And the same is true of so many of the other characters, Jon Snow and Daenerys Targaryen and even Khal Drogo. You just don't get the window into their lives and into their souls that you get in the book. So I highly recommend that you pick up the book series, give it a shot, and yes, I know it's not complete yet. I know, and we'll get to that in a few minutes. But this is the perfect time for you to start reading the books, because there's 5 of them already. And by the time you're done, we may have book 6 out. I'm really hoping, I'm crossing my fingers, so I'll talk more a little bit about that toward the end. But the meat of what I'm trying to say here is, don't think that you got the entire story just by watching the TV show, because it's drastically different in so many respects. And there are dragons. I mean, who doesn't love dragons? I love dragons. You know I love dragons. I've talked about that before. There's so much reason to get into this book series just for the dragons alone, in my opinion. And now, I want to talk to those of you who have read the books and watched the TV series, and you, like many people, even like myself, had very mixed feelings about how the show ended. The show got a lot of heat for how it ended. There was so much of an uproar in the fan community. You know, how could they destroy the show like that? I thought personally that the show was quite well done despite its flaws. I definitely thought that it ended pretty well. I kind of liked the ending, even though I was also disappointed with how rushed it was and some of the outcomes. So don't get me wrong, it definitely has its flaws. But there are so many fans that are so disappointed by how the show ended, and the rest of the books aren't out yet, that they're just at a point to completely give up on ever reading the book series again. I want to encourage you not to take that stand. I understand why you're taking it, but I want to encourage you to hang in there, because I think we're probably going to get The Winds of Winter, which is book 6, very soon. And because of the whole quarantine thing, George R. R. Martin has even said that he's spending lots and lots of time in the world of Westeros. So we know he's writing. We know he's trying hard to finish the book. He's got plenty of time on his hands to do it. So don't give up, because even though he did kind of tell the directors and producers of the show how he wanted to wrap things up, he's going to come at it in a completely different way. And there are going to be many things, I think, that are different than the way they happen in the TV show. So because of that, I would encourage you not to give up. Hang in there, buy the next book when it comes out, even start rereading the series. Because I think we're going to get book 6 soon, and I am really, really excited to see how George R. R. Martin is going to wrap up the story. Just 2 books left. We can do this, folks. I understand your misgivings, but don't blame the TV show on George R. R. Martin. Yeah, he should have been more involved. I agree. I get that. It's his baby, and he kind of gave it away to them. But don't put all the blame on him, and don't stop reading his books because of the way the TV show ended. That's probably not really fair. That's my opinion. Take it for what you will. But I highly recommend you stick with it. Let me know in the comments what you think about A Song of Ice and Fire. Have you read the books? Have you enjoyed them? What are your thoughts on the TV show? Have you watched it? Have you been in that camp that says, I'm just not going to finish reading the books? What are your thoughts on it? Are you at the point where you have never read the books or watched the TV show? I would really love to hear from you what your thoughts are now that you've seen this video, and how you react, what you really like about some of the things I pointed out about the history and the mythological references and dragons and things like that. Let's talk in the comments. Let me know what your thoughts and feelings are on the matter. And if you disagree with me on some of the points I made in this video, definitely let me know. I definitely want to dialogue with you and find out what those disagreements are. So make sure that you like and subscribe, and hit the notification bell if you want to get notifications for my future videos. Make sure to share this video with your friends so that they can experience A Song of Ice and Fire for themselves. Maybe they weren't quite aware of some of the things I put out in this video. And most importantly, whatever you do, make sure that you are reading more books. Please start with A Song of Ice and Fire. I will talk to you guys later. Take care. Bye.